3 cops in the 2020 death of Manuel Ellis. Let's give you the details on the update. The 3 Washington State police officers found not guilty of all criminal charges in the fatal arrest of Manuel Ellis. The more than 2-month trial ended December 21st as the jury acquitted Matthew Collins, Christopher Burbank, and Timothy Rankine on multiple charges of second-degree murder and manslaughter after defense attorneys argued that Ellis died from methamphetamine ingestion combined with the effects of an enlarged heart. Where have we heard this before? Wonder if he had not encountered them, if he'd still be alive with his enlarged heart and perhaps some meth use. We'll never know, will we? Let's give you a reminder of the incident. The police reportedly stopped him because he allegedly harassed a woman on the street, but multiple witnesses disputed that account and said police approached him unprovoked. During that detainment, a nearby home's doorbell security camera caught Ellis repeatedly telling the officers he couldn't breathe, something else we're familiar with. George Floyd, Eric Garner. His death occurred 3 months before George Floyd's, which sparked global demonstrations to end violent policing practices. Statement from the Ellis family attorney now. Biggest reason why I personally think this jury found reasonable doubt is because the defense was essentially allowed to put Manny Ellis on trial. That is textbook, folks. Okay, there's actually a blueprint for how they deal with these things should they ever make it to trial, which is rare. This is a blueprint for it, folks. The Ellis family lawyer, Matthew Erickson, according to the Associated Press, made comments. The defense attorneys were allowed to dredge up Manny's past and repeat to the jury again and again Manny's prior arrest in 2015 and 2019. That unfairly prejudiced jurors against Manny. Something they do in the grand jury too. Okay? Michael Brown, when we finally got the transcript there, we know why the officer was never charged. Because Michael Brown didn't present evidence or allegations against the officer. This was all about Michael Brown, the big, aggressive, violent, now dead, Black man. The officers still face a separate lawsuit from Ellis's family, filed in U.S. District Court in September 2021 that had been on hold due to the criminal trial. Civil case includes claims against 2 additional officers. Macy Ford, who helped restrain Ellis, Armando Farinas, who placed a spit hood on the victim, who were cleared to return to duty after an internal review found they did nothing wrong. Last year, the Ellis family settled federal wrongful death lawsuit against Pierce County, where Tacoma is located, for $4 million. Atlanta Black Star. Okay, Pierce County knows the deal. Pay, but don't really stop this behavior. Just pay out, make it go away. Because after all, the people are going to pay for this until the people decide we're not going to tolerate this anymore. Money doesn't matter, folks. The behavior does. City of Tacoma said the verdicts won't impact an ongoing internal affairs investigation, the results of which are expected to be announced by Tacoma Police Chief Avery Moore within 2 weeks. Going into 2024, and this happened in 2020, but okay. Accompanied by a decision on potential disciplinary actions for the officers, up to and including termination. Atlanta Black Star with the details. So they were waiting for the justice system to do something that they could already do, right? These investigations are going on. You tell me what you see. There's not statutes, okay? There's just your own bylaws, your own internal affairs department, Tacoma Police. Is this behavior okay or not? Is this conduct okay or not? You have all the facts. Okay, it's nearly 4 years later? You know everything you need to know. 3 years later, pardon me. Point is, it's been long enough. No leadership. Let's just wait and see how this shakes out. And that's another tactic, isn't it, Mayor? Just let it long and slow. Long and slow.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the case. So they can, eventually put these guys back in uniform to do what they're trained to do, which is kill Black people, kill people of color. And people don't want to hear that. But and I keep going back to this, and I sound like TYT's broken historian, right? The broken record. Police departments in the United States have their root in slave catchers. Don't think the reason these police officers keep getting off because their organization, the foundation of police departments in this country was to catch or kill black men running away and black women running away from slavery. I don't see a difference. When you look at the numbers, how are we less than 5% of the general population, but the leading dyers from police lethal force, right? And if you're between the ages of 16 and 29, it's one of the leading causes of death. Police officers are. So this is not a broken system. It's working as it was designed. And we got to acknowledge that if we're ever to get right. These juries keep finding these people innocent because they don't see a right that a black person owns that a white cop or any cop has to abide or listen to. The third cop that showed up, walked up and just put his knee on this man's back, whose hand were already up this is what was said from people, eyewitness testimony. His hands were already up. Third officer walks up. He's on the ground and put his knee right on his back. What is that? That is not how you treat human.
The 400-year history, racist history of policing in America, okay, from slave patrols to now traffic stops. There are writings about this. There are dissertations that have been done. Plenty of facts to back it up. Plenty of facts. I don't need those papers. I know you know history, Mayor. And it seems to me that while we have no other way to protect ourselves often, that we have to continue to have conversations in these marginalized communities. We have to continue to say, do you really want to call the police? Figure it out. I don't know what the right answer is, because if you need help now, do you really have an opportunity to say, what's the bigger threat? The perp who's trying to bust through my door, maybe is inside the house, or the police who may come after? The domestic violence situation that I'm enduring, or the police who may come to investigate it. Okay, we've seen children who called the police and ended up shot. We reported it right here. I'll give you the last word, Mayor. It's just so disheartening that they keep being, if it goes the distance, they keep being found not guilty, reasonable doubt. There always is when a Black victim is involved here. And I do say victim.
And there's another horror in there too, right? The fact that taxpayers end up paying for this negligence. Millions and millions of dollars paid in settlements over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Basically saying that, we are liable as taxpayers for the incompetence of these cops or the racism of these cops. But don't worry, they're still on the force.
Yeah. And I think for so many people, and I still want to believe most people are decent. Doesn't mean that we don't have a problem with privilege and people not even realizing that they do have privilege, but most people are decent. But we've got to bring our heads up from busy lives, no fault of our own. I'm not placing blame. And we've got to really study this game that's going on, okay? Because we become outraged. We see the headline on the news that's not even reported correctly because it's reported from a point of view of privilege most of the time, okay? I've been on the inside. I can tell you that's most of the time. Well-intentioned people who don't even get the things that they're writing and saying and reporting on the news. We react to it and say, oh, that's terrible. Oh yeah, no, taxpayer. No, you really need to look under the hood and study how your taxes go up. If you can't just open your heart and see this as a moral compass issue, see it as an economic one too. I'll take whatever I can get at this point. We will, because this must not continue. These private payouts, because people really don't remember the payouts, and people who lose their lives and then they're put on trial. Let's get the prosecutors who think this is a great tactic too. That's about moral compass and protecting all people. If you go into this industry as a prosecutor and you value certain people over others, and this could even be, by the way, a prosecutor of color who's trained in a system, because it's about the system, not the person, okay, who's just plugged into the system. We have to learn our history and then see and do it honestly, by the way, see where we end up after we take an honest look at what really happened, because that'll show us how we got here. Am I wrong, Mayor?
You're not wrong at all. I'll tell you something else as well. You're talking about taking a look at prosecutors. You remember talking about this attacking cases in this manner or getting rid of cops and also prosecutors who are showing up in a way that's not productive to the community, treating people equitably. became a huge thing for George Soros. And when he started supporting the ideal of progressive DAs and judges, that's when he started getting, this anti-Semitic hate from the right and other people about his control over politicians on the left. And I think people should be aware of that, because what we were actually doing with that work was going after these DAs who were excluding Black people from jury selection because of their hair, because of their name, because of their style of clothes. So we watched, for instance, a great example of this is Forrest Allgood in Mississippi, who was one of the worst DAs in the country, got put on the list as one of the worst DAs in the country for how he treated Black people in the 5-county area in Mississippi. And we got rid of him using that work. And I think people saw how effective it could be, telling people the truth about these prosecutors. And that work is kind of being tampered down now. It's not funded as much. So people don't want you going after DAs. They want you to keep talking about settlements, and that's it.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. They don't want you going after these district attorneys unless they're prosecuting 45. Okay, then they, might be political motivated. Got to get her out of here. The Georgia legislature is on her butt. Okay. Well, listen, the pint-sized prosecutor, Fonnie Willis, she's not going anywhere. Okay. We're going to see what happens. A lot of mistakes were made. A lot of time delayed there, but we'll see what happens. But you're absolutely right. We've got to open our eyes and do the homework and see if we can do better as a result.